family, welcome, welcome, welcome. Have you ever had great news to share? Something amazing had happened to you, and you had to think about who you could share it with. You weren't sure if you shared it with this person, if they could be happy for you because you had already shared something with them one time before, and they looked just constipated just for a tenth of a second. Family, if you have ever not been able to share your good news or felt like people weren't happy for you when you celebrated your good news, trust me, that is a rough place to be. I've been there, and I hope it doesn't take you nearly as long to find your tribe of women and men and individuals who can share your happiness for you and with you. Today, we are going to be celebrating and celebrating big. Why? Because it's our anniversary. Family, January is the 1 year milestone for us being together for one whole year. You all have been putting up with me and embracing me and sharing what I've been doing for one whole year. And I'm so thrilled. Let me go ahead and welcome you to I'm Not Crazy But with Dr. Rhonda Mattox. I'm Dr. Rhonda Mattox, triple fellowship trained, board certified psychiatrist, and I have an episode that is second to none for you. I have brought on two of the ladies that I appreciate, that we are probably mutually beneficial one to another, that I absolutely adore, who have been walking this journey with me to celebrate with me today. Listen, as I introduce our guest, you know what to do. Rep your city and tag an amazing woman or man that has poured into you that you want to celebrate. Just tag them. You don't have to tell them to come on, but I want them to know that you think they are absolutely amazing, and we do too. As we are talking about the power and the brilliance and the wonder of celebrations and celebrating with the ones we love, let me introduce you to a first-time guest and a dear friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Chandra Washington. Dr. Chandra Washington is degreed up, family. Oh, she is so degreed up. She refers to herself as health and wellness strategist. Many of you know her as pharmacist. I know her as friend and prayer warrior. She's also a justice of the peace. Can you imagine that? Now, listen, there's so much that I can say about her, and I'm going to sprinkle those golden nuggets throughout this session so I don't take up so much of our time talking about her. But understand that at the end of this session, you're going to love her as much as I do, and the Quorum Court and the AKAs and Soul Shift and all those people as well. I also have with you a dear friend whose name is Dr. Ashley Booth. Dr. Ashley Booth's journey is absolutely amazing, just as Dr. Washington's is. She is a family medicine physician who has branched into concierge / direct primary care medicine. She is a mother, a wife. She is a Delta, and Dr. Washington is an AKA. So I have almost everybody represented. I need some Zetas and some Sigma Gamma Rhos on here, but you all will find each other soon. Thank you, ladies, for joining me, and we are going to have an amazing episode. So, family, guests, as I said, go ahead, drop in the chat where you are, your city, rep your city, and then share this with a friend who may not have an opportunity to watch, because I assure you, if you are anything like me, you have had those moments when you thought, I want to share this with somebody. And then because of where they were in their life, you weren't able to. Now, family, many times we have been raised to let another not to toot our own horns, to let another praise us and not ourselves. But I need you to understand that there is oxytocin that's released. There's dopamine that's released. There are all these wonderful chemicals that are released in our bodies when we stop for a moment and just celebrate. And I'm not talking about the big, huge stuff that we always think about, but I mean celebrate every step of the journey. Sometimes we are so busy and so attentive to getting to the next destination, getting into the school, getting into medical school, getting married, that we fail to enjoy the journey. And so let's just stop, breathe, and enjoy the moment. Ladies, I know what I can celebrate with you all. And I'm going to definitely share, and you all tune in and look real closely at their cheeks, because they're going to be blushing after I do this. But do you have any moments that happened in the past year that you survived or that were just absolutely amazing that you want to take this moment to just kind of celebrate?
Absolutely. Um, I've had a number of moments this year, and I think that as you were talking during the introduction, I really was just sitting here thinking how much gratitude I have for having a shift in my mindset to become more collaborative and less competitive with other people. And so I'm thankful that I've been surrounded by a group of ladies, and a lot of them are on here, which I'm seeing them say hello. Like that is just surreal to me.
Welcome, Soul Shift ladies. We're glad you're here.
They're here and they're in the comments simply because I was like, hey, I'm going to be on at 11 o'clock. If you can hop on, hop on. And so people change their schedules, people rearrange things to be here. And so I think if I could celebrate one thing this year, it would be that I really have found my people, that there really is no competition among us, that we genuinely love each other. And we know all of the stereotypes about Black women, how we are have the crabs in a basket mentality, and I found my people that that's not it. We genuinely love each other, we celebrate each other. Some of us, we don't get to see each other in person often, but it's like I've known them for my whole life. And so I'm just thankful to be at that place in my life where I actually have my people.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to echo what she said. Welcome, Soul Shift. Welcome, Pastor Sean. Welcome, all those ladies. And I want you to know I have definitely seen the transformation. Family, I met Dr. Washington for the very first time at a board meeting. And we were having a very spirited, lively conversation. And it was obvious that we were going a certain way. And everybody had raised their hand to vote one way, and she raised her hand to vote another. And of course it wasn't it mattered not because they were going that way, but I certainly respected and valued the person who was willing to go on the record as disagreeing and dissenting in spite of what everybody else was doing, and then share and showcase her opinion. It represented integrity to me and authenticity, and I've always appreciated it from that day forward. Dr. Booth, what about you? Anything you're
The
celebrating?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that sticks out to me is a 5K that I recently did. Someone challenged me to it, and I went kicking and screaming the whole way. I'm not a runner. I don't do this. This is not my thing. I don't want to. And it's like, come on, we'll do it. But then the more I got into it, the more it was about what you said earlier about enjoying the journey, right? Because a lot of times I get tunnel vision. It's like when I was trying to do medical school, I blocked out everything else, and I missed a lot of celebrations, a lot of things, because I can't do that. I gotta study. I can't do that because I gotta do this. So I was just like, oh my gosh. And I looked up and I was like, all the things have happened. And where were you outside of a book, And you're just so focused on that goal. But this one, I said, let's just see where this leads. And it was a moment for me to take some time to myself because, as you said, I am doing all the things. I'm a mom, and I am also a wife, and I am a business owner and all this stuff. So I'm having all these things that are kind of like pulling at me. I need give me, give me, give me, give me. But this was a moment for me to really like take some time for myself. And I was able to see kind of not only what I was made of, but when I got to race day, I was so motivated because it wasn't just a typical 5K. Like we had to run over the bridge, and I was like, I've never run over a bridge. And like I'm just thinking about all these things, and it's like you can do it. And I had this lady who was sitting next to me telling me her story. I got motivated from that, and it was just such an empowering moment. And I was like, you never know where you're going to find your people, because she was my person that day. I had trained and had some other accountability partners, but they weren't there by the time I made it to the race. So then she ended up being my person for that day. And
Yes,
it was just absolutely beautiful. So that was a moment when I said, enjoy the journey.
absolutely. And for me, I think I there are people when you start your journey, there are people that you make assumptions with who will be there at the end of your journey. And when you get the tunnel vision and you fail to celebrate along the way, you don't factor in that life happens. I know when I started medical school it was my assumption that because this had certainly been not just my dream, but my mother's dream, that at the end of the journey, she'd be there with me. And so I had in my mind, oh, I'm going to do this for her when this happens. I'm going to do that for her. And so I missed these many mundane moments to celebrate and to share just passing the test or just getting in with her. And at the end, she wasn't there to celebrate with me. And I think after realizing I missed out on some amazing opportunities to allow her to celebrate with me, I wanted to prioritize as I move forward, making sure that I celebrate people every step of the way, that I celebrate their milestones. And it's been a lot more uncomfortable for me to celebrate me in this journey because, my mother, like I said, she was like, let another man toot your own horn and all that stuff. And so there's some things that while she was an amazing person, there's some things that I had to unlearn as well, because we only get one shot at this thing called life. And we have to make it amazing, and make it amazing in the mundane things of life, not just but those mundane things, celebrating even the snow. We're snowed in here, Dr. Booth, and I'm absolutely enjoying it and enjoying those moments just in the snow. How have you, um, how have you, well, first of all, did you all have to unlearn that? Are you just people who have always known to celebrate others and got into that, or celebrate yourself? Or did you have to learn to do that?
I've celebrated others. I am so much it's so much easier for me to celebrate other people than it is for me to celebrate myself. I just did not. I think I grew up with that same support system. They would celebrate me, but they say we're supposed to celebrate you, but you don't toot your own horn type of a situation. And I'm also kind of hard on myself. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I did that, but maybe I could have also done X, Y, and Z. Okay, oh, or that's done. Check. Now this is the next thing that I need to do. But sometimes when you get caught up in that, you do forget along the way. No, that was a big deal. Someone had told me, I was like, yeah, I'm a doctor, but I need to do blah, blah. They was like, just stop right there. That's a big deal. And I was like, yeah, it is, because I know where I came from. There are no doctors in my family. I'm the first of a lot of things. First generation going to college, first being a doctor, like all these things. So I am very aware of where I came from and the shoulders that I stand on and all of that. But sometimes you just think, okay, but there's more to be done. There's more that I have to do. But there are other people I'm like, girl, you did that. You crushed that. That's so awesome. But when it comes to myself, I have been hard on myself, but I'm starting to learn to it's okay to say you did a good job. You did, and it's okay. And pat yourself on the back and
Good,
then keep moving.
good, good. And so hard for you to celebrate you, easier for you to celebrate your others, but you're making progress. What about you, Dr. Washington?
So I've always been one who celebrated others. Like literally, if someone made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the absolute best. And I would go tell, I've always been that type of person. I've always been a person to celebrate myself, but in a quiet and understated type of way.
Uh-huh.
Because growing up, we're both from rural Arkansas.
Mhm.
Um, and with my parents being teachers, my dad being a pastor, it's like the preachers and the teachers' kids are the worst ones. So, I never really wanted to do anything to draw attention to myself, but I was always aware of my accomplishments. So, in a very quiet and understated type of way, that is no longer my testimony, because now I understand that I can celebrate me and I deserve to celebrate me in the same way that I celebrate other people that I love. I understand that it is not arrogance if I've accomplished something. I understand that everything I do, it is because I've been empowered by God who helped me. Um, so I don't feel bad about celebrating myself and tooting my own horn and all of that. And I just encourage, if anybody is watching, you know, don't let what you think somebody else is going to think be a deterrent. That you toot your own horn. It's okay to say that you're awesome. It's okay to say that you have skills and abilities. And even mine, a mindset transition I just went through is now I'm able to say that I am a $1 million expert through some of the work in our mentoring community, because that was something I'm like, oh, I shouldn't say that. But the truth of the matter is, I am. And you ladies are too. So,
All
yeah,
right.
I don't have that problem anymore. I'm going to toot my horn.
Yes, absolutely. And for those of you who are just joining us, we are talking about the power and the beauty of celebrating our milestones all along the way. Don't wait till the big end to the big win, but go ahead and celebrate your milestones. And for any of you who are tuning in now, go ahead and drop something in there that you are happy that you were able to achieve or survive or whatever during this past year. As we talked, I think Dr. Washington said she celebrated in a small way, in a not so loud way. And both Dr. Booth and I, we kind of were a little bit more hesitant. And truth be told, there's still a little bit of when I am like and particularly if when you were sharing, you look in their eyes and you can see that little bit of constipation, that constipated look when you're sharing, that may not be the person that you need to share with. And let me say, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a hater. They may just not be in the right space to be able to receive it right now because maybe their life is going haywire. But I'll start with you, Dr. Washington. How did you said you always celebrated yourself a little, since that is foreign to some of us. How did you even get there? How did you know to celebrate yourself when so many of us are getting the message that it's not okay to celebrate ourselves?
I think that I knew to celebrate myself because I really did grow up in an environment that was about celebration.
Mm.
And sometimes I think back like to my childhood and I'm really astounded at how much was poured into me by other people. Like I remember growing up that if someone in the community did something, we would all gather at someone's house. They would pull out the good tablecloths. We would have a dinner. Everybody would be congratulatory. So those are the types of things that I grew up seeing. I was very accustomed to that. And then as I started noticing things that maybe I did well,
Mhm.
and places and areas that I excelled in, I was like, wait a minute, you know, I'm from this little country town. Statistically speaking, I'm supposed to be a statistic, right? But I graduated from high school never having made a B in my life. That doesn't happen, you know. And I was like, okay, it's something here to this. I majored in chemistry, which was hard, and I did well. And I'm like, that doesn't happen a lot. And so I really just started noticing how other people were celebrating people. And I was like, I can do that for myself too. It never occurred to me not to celebrate myself. I think I was always just aware of how other people would perceive it. And so maybe the defining moment for me was when I matured into that place where I really didn't care what other people thought or
Mm.
what their perceptions were. Because, I mean, you can do it too. So.
One of the things that I heard from a historical stance for why a lot of times Black people would um, discourage that is because our ancestors in slavery, when they excelled at something, um, whether it be physical prowess or what have you, then they were more likely to be sold off at a higher price. And I remember I don't remember who. I remember it was a scholar, a researcher that was sharing that. But when they talked about the fact that if you excelled and it was known widely in the community, that put you at risk for being separated from your family. And so there was almost like this epigenetic thing that had happened in our bodies to where we innately knew, don't make a big hoo-ha over it, or it may separate you from those that you love, from back in slavery stance. And I had never thought about that, but when I heard that, it made so much sense. Now let me be clear, I've not done the research on it to say, hey, this is, but that is certainly was an insightful realization that could in fact be a part of why so many mothers were discouraging their children from tooting their own horn and from showcasing their light. But that, just putting it down, that does not even go with who you are in your faith or whatever. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, those songs. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot put a barrel over the light. And there are people who say, when you have that light in you, it draws people. And I'm going to tell you, as a person who really struggled to try to figure out a way to fit in, I could not do it because my light was always just like booming. And I remember one day when I realized that I was okay. I was at a medical conference and I had on this beautiful bright orange dress. And I looked around and everybody else was in blue and black. And I reflected to when I was in medical school. And in medical school, I always tried to like wear blue and black and not stand out so that I did not get accused of, the stuff that you get accused of. And I was in that beautiful orange dress and I said, oh my gosh, I'm here. I was okay with standing out. I was okay with not blending in. I was okay with not caring if they thought, "Ooh, that is too much. That is not professional." And I was like, it was one of those exhale moments that I just. Now, let me do a check-in with our audience because I know I have a lot of folks on here and I actually can't see it. So I'm just going to invite our producer, if she sees a question or a comment that radiates, to go ahead and showcase it, because unfortunately I can't see you all. But thank you for joining, and feel free to tag a friend that you want to celebrate or showcase. Now, of course, I believe in celebrating. And when they were talking, they didn't celebrate themselves enough. So let me just tell you a little bit about these ladies. Okay. So first of all, they are practicing emotional wellness and healing in a completely different way than what others think. Dr. Washington is a pharmacist who left the pharmacy industry and is now doing her thing as a strategist, as an influencer, and is just making waves. She's teaching and doing a whole host of things. She's an author, and we'll drop her links to where she is in the book. And so she is just doing that thing. And then Dr. Booth is doing direct primary care in Savannah, Georgia. She's absolutely my favorite doctor in Savannah, Georgia by any stretch of the imagination. And she's running marathons. She's a business owner. She was courageous in that she was raising a child while her husband was in a completely different city and she was in another city. And so these are really brave women. And I was surprised to hear what they wanted to celebrate, because I had all these things that I wanted to say about as I was celebrating them. Tell me about how a person, and I know we all are going to say our mother, so I'm going to discourage you from saying your mother, though I'll let you give her a pat in a little bit. But tell me about the one person that you can always go to who will celebrate with you and for you, and will, when you are walking and you have your head down because life has punched you in the throat or whatever, and they kind of lift your head. And I think about that because I was watching a basketball game, and this kid had done something on the court that was a mishap, and he kind of dropped his head, and this shorter guy came through and tilted his head up like, brother, lift your head high. So who is the person that's going to lift your head when life throws you a sucker punch? And I hope they're watching so you can throw it out here.
That was a tough one, Dr. Rhonda, because you said don't say your mom. It depends on the situation, right? Because I'm going to say my mom, but my mom is tough love mom. So her approach is, okay, you're sad. Now I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes. Now what else are you gonna do? Now what's the plan? I'm like, well, dang. She doesn't let you sit in it for long. But sometimes I need that. But if I'm like, I'm not there yet, I don't want to hear that yet, and I need something else, the person for sure is my husband. And he's just like, really? You did okay. It's all right. And his brain on it, but I have to tell him, I was like, listen, right now, I just want to talk about it. I don't want a solution. I don't want the other things. I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen And then he's like, okay. And then he's like, it's okay. And then later he'll say, okay, do you want to hear my thoughts on it? And then we'll discuss it. But he's really good about figuring out when I'm in that moment when I just want to say, this is where I am. Can I have a hug? And he's like, I got you. Yeah.
Shout out to Mr. Chris Booth for being the man. That was completely a surprise what you said. I was not expecting that answer. Good, good. Dr. Washington.
Okay, so don't be mad at me. I cannot narrow it down to one person, because the truth of the matter is I don't have anybody in my life who is not that person for me. Because at this point, I am so intentional in who I share time with, in who I allow in my circle. So, I mean, everybody that I am affiliated with at this point, they do that for me. So, there are people, and some of them are watching here, that I can text and say, I need some encouragement. And 2 seconds later, they're calling. There are other people that even if I don't say anything, maybe if we're in class, in our mentoring class, and they're sending a message, hey, you look a little different tonight. Is everything okay? So I don't have people in my life who let me have pity parties. I don't have people in my life who don't, coach me up. I don't have those types of people in my life. So I think that's huge. Like, I'm so grateful for that. I'm like, dang, I can't think of there's no one person that stands out, because everybody in my life does that for me, even my children. And I think that is because I have modeled to them what that looks like. That is the culture of our home. That is the culture of our friendships, that's how we show up for each other. So a lot of people would be my answer.
And I'm going to say, I want that for all of you. As you were talking, as I ask you questions, I answer these questions for myself, and I'm so absolutely amazed that I share your testimony, in that the people that I have selected to be around me are those people that, at any given time, I can. And I remember recently I had an experience, and this was with a professional colleague, to where I was sharing something amazing that had happened. And I was really giving few details because I'd signed a tight non-disclosure agreement. And her response was so that it caught me off guard, because there are certain, so, and I'll tell you, I got a contract with a studio, and it was my second contract. My first contract was something that my brother would be impressed with and that men would be impressed with, but this was one that I was impressed with. And so I was like over the moon, and the response caught me off guard, and I realized, oh, you all are not friends, and this is someone who is not. But I say that to say, when you are growing into your womanhood or into your adulthood, many times you have relationships that are there from loyalty, for loyalty's sake. This is a person that I grew up with, and so I have them here so they won't think that I think I'm too much. Or this is a person who is a family member. And so we, in the beginning of our adulthood, will really keep people around for longevity's sake, for loyalty's sake, for whatever sake, but it's not about who they are to us or even our common denominators anymore, because we've drifted away. But as you move forward in life, I do hope that, encourage you to make it a priority to pay attention to that circle. And how have you all gone about building, reconstructing your circles so that you have people in there who love you? Because one of the toughest things that I hear many times is the loneliness, that it is an epidemic in our country, and the people who absolutely do not have that in there. So how did you deconstruct from people, or release people who are no longer serving you? And how did you prioritize finding those people, being a magnet for those people who were your people? And audience, you drop in, you let us know your steps too, because we want to hear from you.
I think for me, one of the things that I had to do was really separate um, who people are versus their role in my life. So just because as we grow, and as we change, obviously it's possible to go in different directions. To me, that does not mean that I have to discard you out of my life, but it means that now I know what your place in my life is. So if you don't share the same mindset, then I know that those things that are near and dear to me, I can't trust you with that. But if you want to go out to eat and we can kiki, we can go do that. That's the nature of our relationship. And I think that that's one of the biggest things for us to do, is to really establish what the nature of the relationship is and not have unrealistic expectations, because everybody does not have the capacity to be your cheerleader. Some people just don't. They may have never been taught how to. They've never had relationships where, they needed to cheer. So, like, some people just don't. And I'm not going to hold it against you if you don't. But if you can't do that for me, then you have a different place in my life than someone who can.
Oh, that is good. Oh, that's good. That's excellent. So, knowing, uh, restate that one more time so that we can make sure we can make that tweetable and shareable and what have you.
Wait a minute. So,
That was good stuff right there.
I don't really know. Basically, what I'm saying is to not have unrealistic expectations of people in your life, that you have to know who is in your life and what their role is to your life. Everybody is not intended to be your closest confidant. Everybody is not intended to be your cheerleader. Some people may just be in your life so they can tell a good joke when you need to laugh. And we need to accept that and allow people to operate in whatever lane they operate in our lives, and not try to make them be what we need them to be, especially if they don't have the capacity to do that. I don't know that that was much better, because it's not
Oh, that
really
was good. It was
Uh-huh.
good. For me, I just needed you to say that again because it landed, it exploded in my heart, and I want to make sure that I get that. And ladies, whatever she said, you start dropping that in the chat because we need to make sure that we hear that and drop what time it is so we know how to go back to find that spot as well. Yes, yes, yes. Dr. Booth, I don't even remember my question now. This girl that got me all bent out of shape. If you remember it, answer it.
Sure. The way to, I think I've always been good with boundaries. I've always been pretty darn good with boundaries. My youngest daughter, she has very significant boundaries. And I was like, I think she gets that from me because she'll let you know, I don't want this. I don't need this. Can I have this? So she will let you know this is kind of where I am and what I need and what I don't need. So I've always been pretty good with that. But then getting with other people like you, Dr. Rhonda, when I got ready for medical school, you said, listen, you're not going to have a lot of time. So you're going to have to tell the people how much time you have and work with that. And that's what I would do. So before, when I got on the phone, hey, I have 10 minutes, what's going on? And then if you can't respect that and you keep going, then I said, next time you call, don't look like I'll be answering because you didn't respect my boundary. I told you what I had, especially if it's not super duper important. If it's just, oh, I'm just talking, and I say, hey, I have to go, and you still going on and on. I'm like, okay, I see kind of where this is, and maybe you don't respect that. So it's the same thing, like figuring out those roles of where people are, and then you say, okay, this is kind of where they fit and how we're gonna work and move, and that's essentially how I've been able to make it make sense.
Yes. So I like what you're saying. Set boundaries,
Hmm.
identify who respects those boundaries.
Hmm.
Because if you can respect my boundaries, then you can have access to me. But if you don't respect my boundaries, then love you or not, I have to dial back your access to me.
Hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. As you are, we're all mothers on here. What do you wish that your mother, or let me try, what would you tell your 18-year-old self about just life now? What would be the one or two pieces of advice that you would give to yourself as it relates to um, navigating this journey into adulthood or womanhood and celebrating yourself along the way? While you all are pausing and thinking, I suppose I'll jump in there. I think for me, it would be just what we're doing now, to not take people for granted and assume that they will be here at the end of your journey, but to celebrate those small things all along the way and celebrate them and allow yourself to be celebrated as well. For me, it was, it was hard for me to let other people celebrate me, but it was even harder for me to celebrate myself. Something happened when I turned 50. When I turned 50, I was like, you know what? And I would, and I asked myself about, I asked even about my husband, do you want to be doing this for the next 50 years if he never changes? Fortunately, he got the check mark. Okay. But there was no relationship that was off limits for me in terms of, if this person never changes, can I keep with them and can I celebrate with them? And will they allow me to be my authentic self? And I use the word allow here because it doesn't matter if they allow, I'm going to be my authentic self, but is it going to be uncomfortable for them and me if I'm my authentic self? So I'm going to say celebrate all along the way and choose people that you can be your authentic, quirky, nerdy, bibliophile self with, without them trying to throw low shade at you, because I'm a nerd and I love it. And I'm a comedian and I'm a belly laugher and I just have to be able to be me. And if you're going to be throwing some low grade shade, you can't have access. I'm not writing it off. And so I pay attention to the jokes. Lord, I just said a whole thesis over here. You guys tell me, because I got to go back and dissect what I just said. But you got me. Drop it in the chat because I may not even know what I just said.
I think that what I would tell my 18-year-old self, or what I would tell anybody, is that you have everything in you that you need to win. Now go win and celebrate every win.
Every win. Every one of them.
Because a win is a win.
A win is a win. And let me just tell you what I learned from Dr. Washington. Family, she's phenomenal. I hope that she'll drop in the chat where you can follow her at. But Dr. Washington said something to me I've never heard anybody say before or after. She was talking about in her track days and how she would put on lip gloss before me because she wanted to look good when she came across the winning line. Family, sometimes we can make it across that winning line, but we look like like we've been sucker punched, gut punched, all of that. Dr. Washington puts lip gloss on before the run so that when she comes across and you guys are snapping pictures of a winning thing, you can snap pictures with her looking doggone good. Ladies, put some lip gloss on in the middle of your win as well.
And some cute earrings.
And some cute earrings. All right. Shakari Richardson in the house. Dr. Booth.
The thing I would say is that you are enough. It's just like you said, accepting who you are and saying, not only am I enough, I'm supposed to be in these spaces, wherever you are, because a lot of times the higher up we go, the fewer of us that we see. And it makes you start questioning things. I was the only African-American student in my med school class, the only on my campus. That makes you start questioning things. That makes other people question things. They thought that I was there for affirmative action. No, I earned my right to be here. So people are going to question you when you get to other places and you have to say, no, I earned my right to be here. There are other people who may be here for affirmative action. It's not me, and I had to educate. Like, they literally came out and asked me about that. How do you feel? I said, well, how do you feel? Because, really that didn't really affect us. If you look around this classroom, you can see it really didn't affect us because I'm the only one who's here. Now our class is 50-50, white and, male and female. Now who did it really help? So let's like really educate and know like what is really happening. But those moments shook me for a second and I had to say, no, don't let them do that to you. You are enough. You deserve to be here. and you're going to be okay. So that is what I will say, because time and time again, I would sometimes come into those spaces in those moments, and you may feel like, oh, am I, wait, what happened here? But it's okay, and you're going to be okay.
Hmm. Oh, that was it right there. That was some good stuff. Dr. Washington, you want to add anything?
I mean, that was just it. Like we do, and I think it's very I'm glad that you mentioned that. I know that everybody watching this may not be African American, but especially for African American women, that there's this thing that goes on in our psyche sometimes that causes us to second guess ourselves. I
Hmm.
think that also lends to why we're a lot less hesitant to celebrate ourselves.
Hmm.
And I think that what, you know, I think that was just amazing that you deserve to be where you are. And I think you can put all of that of what both of the things that we said together, you deserve to be there. You have in you what it takes to win. Now go do what you have to do and toot your horn. There you
Yes,
go. That's the
absolutely.
magic formula right there.
That's it.
That's the magic formula. And and the thing about it is, how do you get to that place? Because so many times, I think one of the things that someone's, I don't think it was you, Dr. Washington, is that when I was young, I was, from a small Stamps, Arkansas, and in Stamps, Arkansas, we own if you were successful, we owned you. If you were not successful, we owned you. Like you were not in this world by yourself. If we went into if we were watching TV and somebody black came on, the TV was stopping. That's the show we were watching. If we were went into a bank and somebody got a job as a teller and they looked like us, honey, that was da 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 da. And so we owned your success, and we owned your failure as well. If you got put out, honey, we had too many people that came to stay in our house that lived with us, that were my play cousins and play aunties after they'd been abused by daddies, husbands, whatever. Our community owned what was going on in your life, and we didn't look the other way. We supported you when you were doing well. We supported you when you were down, and so it was that that community, that communal feel to it. So when you succeeded, we all celebrated right along with you, as if that was our own. You know, do we still have that? I think someone said we hear stories about this happening with Black women. And it's interesting because I always feel a little bit weird when I hear that, because that is not my experience. My mother worked to create opportunities for me to see Black women who were extraordinary in their game. And she created this sense of sisterhood to where I realized collaboration and not competition. And now let me, I don't want you to think I'm Mother Teresa, because, there would be these pockets of competition internally and whatnot. But this sisterhood, um, how did you get to that sense of sisterhood? I think I hear where it's coming from, but I'd like to hear you articulate it. How did you get that sense of community, that sense of sisterhood that seems to be propelling you forward?
Hmm. Well, for me, I didn't grow up in Stamps, but I did grow up in a small-ish town in Arkansas. So that already fostered community. My mom and my dad were huge on community and being there for your neighbor and seeing the people. I grew up with sisters, and they did not allow us to bicker and do this, all of that. No, like my parents actually thought we never did, like they'll, kids will say certain things back and forth, but they never thought we really had any major things. And one time we told them, "Oh yeah, that went down." They were like, "What? Where were we?" And I was like, "Y'all weren't at home that day." But for the most part, I don't know. But for the most part, like they fostered that and said, no, like you will, you guys are gonna work this out. You're gonna give your sister a hug. You guys are gonna say, that sort of thing. And then you get involved in other community activities and stuff. And a lot of my educators, and those are the people who I felt like I really understood and who understood me. A lot of them look like me. So a lot of that was like, and they were all about community and fostering that community and sisterhood and service and all of that stuff. So I think they poured so much into me with that. I had no, that's just like was in me already. That's also my personality, that then I'm really able to freely do that. Like I seek it out. When I was the only in med school, I was like, I'm going to find some people somewhere, somehow. And then when I went to residency and I saw people in my department, people in other departments, I started reaching out. Hey, we're going to form a group because we need each other. And this is how we're going to do. I know some of them looked at me like, girl, what is wrong with you? I was like, I just came from a program where I was just by myself and I need this support and I need y'all. So come help me. But I think that to me, I just know that that connection and that safe space was important for me. So I try to provide that as much as I can for other people.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Washington, anything you want to add?
Yeah, my answer is very similar to Dr. Booth's, because community is what had always been modeled for me. And I remember growing up, like if somebody was participating in a pageant, so Miss Sue would be like, I have a dress. Miss Ann is like, what size shoe do they wear? Then two other people say, okay, we're going to go in together and get our hair done. Then somebody else was like, okay, I'm going to do like that's always been modeled. So that's always like who I am. And I also believe that growing up with a large extended family, you learn how to play nice, because I had a gazillion cousins. And when we were at my grandma's house, it's like, y'all go outside. If one person got in trouble, everybody got in trouble. So we learned conflict resolution before someone told, because if they came out there swinging, and I know people don't spank their kids anymore, but we got spankings. So if one person got a spanking, all of us were going to get a spanking. So we learned the sense of community. We learned how to get along. We learned how to work it out. We learned how to compromise with us, the kids across the street. Because, during that time, anybody could discipline and all of that. And so community has always been modeled. There was nowhere that I could go where I lived that somebody's eyes were not on me and they could not pick up the phone and call my parents to tell them if I was misbehaving, which I never did because my mama didn't play those types of games. But I think that community was always modeled. And I'm very grateful. I don't feel like I missed out by growing up in rural Arkansas. Like, I'm very grateful for the upbringing, because those skills and things that were deposited into me, that's helped me to accomplish the things that I have and to be where I am today.
As you were talking, I was thinking about extended family, and then you said it. I will say, I remember working with an editor who kept trying to narrate my background as being, in poverty, growing up in poverty. And while my family did not have much, I did not grow up in poverty. Like, my grandparents lived right next door to me. My great grandmother lived less than a block from me. I had 3 aunts and uncles that lived behind me. And when my mom said go play, I was going to play with my family. And that's what makes me rich. And I noticed that people, particularly people who have extended family, sometimes even like healthy or unhealthy, that extended family can say stuff to you that your parents have been saying forever that you could not hear, but you will hear from them. One of the things that has been really unsettling for me in my work in juvenile justice is just how many young people do not have family because their parents are feuding. I will say, if you are listening and you have brothers and sisters, and I understand there's like toxic things that happen, there's sexual abuse, those kinds of things that happen to limit you. But if your kids can get to know their cousins and their aunts and their uncles, and again, I have some caveats, but those relationships really can go a long way in saying some of the stuff that you want said to them, that they will actually hear. One of my sister in love, she can say things to my daughter that I've been saying like over and over and over again. But when my sister in love puts her syrupy sweet on it, my daughter's like, oh, and she sounds like this lady is a genius when I've been saying this all along. But I'm going to tell you, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, everything is established, and so they can hear it. Now, family, we are at the 11:50 mark. I don't know how we got here so quickly, but I always like to give you an opportunity to have some some parting words and to drop some nuggets. And audience, I've not been able to see you and I've not dialogue with you as much as I have because I have a new screen. I can't see what you're saying all the time. But know that I appreciate you. Please drop in the chat what your takeaways are from this, what your most important takeaways have been, or give some love or what have you. Please go ahead and start doing that. But as we are about to wrap up, what are 2 or 3 things that maybe you intended to say, but you didn't get around to saying, and you wanted to be said before you leave here? Or you can reiterate something you've already said that our listeners, you really want them to hear.
I think that one of the things that I really want to say, even though this today's discussion was focused on the celebrations, ourselves, and the relationships and all of that, I just want to encourage everybody who is watching this to be intentional about taking care of your health. And it is important to have good relationships because one of my areas of expertise is helping people to connect the dots between how they think and their overall health and wellness. They go hand in hand. Yes, you need to go to your doctor. Yes, you need to follow the doctor's instructions. And notice I didn't say but. And you also need to evaluate how you think about certain things. Because if you think that everybody is out to get you, if you think that you don't have any friends, I don't care how much medication you take and how many directions you follow, that stress from those stress hormones that's being released is going to have a negative and adverse effect on your overall wellness. So I want to encourage everybody to be intentional about managing how you think so that that translates into good overall health and wellness. And shameless plug, I do have an upcoming masterclass called the Ultimate Wellness Jumpstart. And I'm teaching this because what I have found is a lot of people do not know where to start. People will go see their doctor. The doctor says, "Is there anything you want to talk to me about?" And they freeze up and they don't. And then they're like, "Well, the doctor didn't." Well, did you tell them? Well, no, I mean, they can't know what you don't tell them. So I'm going to put the link in the comments. And the investment to take this class is whatever you want to invest. This is how strongly I believe about it. It is not a set fee, but if you feel like this information is worth $1, then send $1. You can take the class. If you feel like it's worth $10,000, because it is, send $10,000 and take the class. That's number one. The second thing is going back to what Dr. Booth and I have both been saying. You have everything in you to be successful. And I want Black women to be empowered to know that you don't have to be what someone else tells you that you can be. And so I'm inviting you to join me next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, for the $1,000,000 Expert Challenge. We all have things in us. We all have gifts that we are innately good at, that we're experts at. And I think that we just need help sometimes in excavating those things and having the courage to act on them. So I'm inviting you to join me for those 2 things, and I'll put the links in the comments.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dr. Booth. And you guys go ahead and share this on your timeline because it's good now, but it will be good later. And there's someone on your timeline who needs to hear what these ladies have been dropping. Dr. Booth.
Sure, thank you. I absolutely 100% agree with Dr. Washington because being intentional is key. As a primary care doctor, a lot of things of what I'm seeing is things are falling through the cracks. And one of the reasons is it's either an education piece, you don't understand it, so you don't do it. Or the other thing is it's like, well, I don't know how serious this is. And so if you don't know and understand those things, then that's when we start seeing some of these other things that start to happen and break down. So I would also say make sure that you partner with your doctor. I didn't say just go find one. You have to be intentional and partner with this person to make sure that this is your person, because we've been talking about finding your people. And that's what I do. Like I am a primary care doctor, but I feel like, and I say that I am a health coach because I'm like, yes, we got that A1C down. Yes, you started walking 2 days a week. They say recommended is 5, but the win is that you're now doing 2 because you felt like you couldn't get any in, right? So you want to find your person. And like you said, the other thing, I will shamelessly plug mine too. And you can follow me on social media, Dr. Ashley A. Booth, MD, because I tell you about how to approach that doctor's visit. So when they ask you those questions, you don't freeze up, and you know how to be prepared, and you know what to tell them, and you know what symptoms you have, and you know what medications you've been taking for it, and it's not working. Because the biggest thing that I hear from patients, family, friends, that doctor did nothing for me. And I was like, come on. But in order to help them do the things for you, we have to be able to tell them. And you guys only have so much time. My patients have 30 to 60 minutes with me. Most of you guys out there who are in the regular system are getting maybe 5 to 10. So there's a lot that I can cover in 30 to 60 versus 5 to 10. So I help equip you on how to do that. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of that, follow me because you'll get all of those tips. You can also go to my website, www.healingbtspc.com, because I have a health toolkit that will help you put all of that stuff in there. You go to your doctor that think you're a rock star.
Healing Beyond the Stethoscope, Dr. Ashley Booth and Dr. Chandra Washington, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, audience, for tuning in and staying the whole time. I appreciate the love, the likes, the comments that you shared. As we are approaching as we have hit our 1 year anniversary, I am here every first and third Thursday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And I look forward to making family and friends of you over here at I'm Not Crazy But with Dr. Rhonda Mattox. This is a safe place for you to explore your mental health questions, your emotional health questions, and certainly your physical health questions. Until next time, please send up the loves, the likes for these amazing ladies. Go over and follow them on their pages, and because they have such great information that you'll want to follow them. And I will see you same time, same place, first Thursday in February. Bye-bye.